Hello everyone, welcome to WNBL iTV for another week. What an incredible week it's been. The WNBL finals have started. We started with a thriller up in Townsville, the Fire defeating Sydney Uni. Bulleen in one of the upsets of the season in many respects over the Adelaide Lightning. And then the poor old Townsville Fire just ran out of legs and Dandenong took the game away from them late. Three thrilling finals. We've got two more to come. Lori Chiswick is with me, and Lori, I know that you were otherwise engaged for a couple of days. Congratulations, of course, on the Victorian Under-20 Championship win. But what a great way with the WNBL to start their finals.
Oh, Darren, I did miss a couple of those games, but I did see the replays on ABC, and talk about Townsville losing their legs. What about you and your voice? Oh my goodness. Is it going to survive the finals, or is it just going to stay nice and squeaky?
Yes, well, for those who don't know what Laurie's talking about, just at the very end of the Bulleen Adelaide game, there might have been a slight upward inflection when Joe Leadham stole the pass. But look, it was a thrilling finish, and I was a little bit tired as well, I have to say, after a couple of big games. But let's talk about that game first. I mean, for Bulleen, as I said right at the top there, I think I didn't give them a chance, to be honest. Without Sam Richards and going in there to Adelaide, who'd been so good, but for round 18, I barely gave them a chance. But Tom Maher got his team up, and they were so proud, so persistent, so passionate, and they really deserved their victory.
Well, I think it was a huge, huge boost for them to have Jo Leedham back.
Yep.
I thought she was excellent in that game, and not so much in the scoring, but just her steadiness on the court. A couple of steals that she got were so timely and really, really lifted the momentum of the team.
There's no doubt about that. She got two in the last quarter, which basically decided the game. She got the one with about 4 minutes to go, which put them up by 10 points. And then she got the one with 2.7 seconds to go, which was when Adelaide were trying to level the game. One of the key matchups, one of the key things going into the game was always going to be how Bulleen dealt with Susie Batkovic. Susie only shot the ball at 28%. She was frustrated. She got fouled out in the end. It was not her best game. But what I was interested in was the fact that Bulleen went with Rachel Jarry as Susie's defensive matchup, and they left Liz to guard Abby Bishop.
Well, Darren, a couple of things with that. I think Susie's form, with her injury and being in and out, she certainly hasn't been able to hit the training track. And you can tell, she just looks a bit rusty out there. But as far as putting Rachel Jarry on her, often if you put a player that's smaller on a big, it frustrates them.
Okay.
They can't just get body to body and push and to gain that position. And certainly Rachel would have the foot speed on Susie, especially with her not having some match fitness. And I think it was a good matchup for them, and it proved to probably slow her down enough in the end to not have her be a huge influence.
And how would Tony Edmondson be feeling, missing those free throws? It's not her fault they lost the game. Everybody knows that, but I'm sure her teammates would just be telling her that and telling her that and telling her that all week.
But she wouldn't be thinking about that as she was trying to go to sleep that night, that's for sure. But what an amazing finish to that game, and the fact that they got that block on Rachel Jarry's shot, and it's literally dropped into Liz's hands for a putback on the buzzer, while Bulleen would just go away with big smiles on their faces.
Yeah, that's right. And got to give credit to Abby Bishop and Liz as well. I thought that Abby was Adelaide's best player. She had, I think, 23, 24 points. And Liz was just superb. She shot the ball at about 70%. Every time she got the ball deep, she made a good decision. She passed it out of a double team. Even on that last play, she passed it out of a double team, but then was in the right spot to actually finish it.
Didn't she have her game face on?
Oh, yeah.
That whole entire game. She was focused. She didn't look like she got frustrated. She was doing the right things, and it was just, that's the way Liz Cambridge needs to play, and certainly she'll want to play in the grand final.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bulleen go to their fourth grand final in a row. It's a fantastic achievement. More on that a little bit later, and certainly more on the Adelaide Lightning when we look ahead to preview their upcoming preliminary final. Their opponents, of course, the Dandenong Rangers. Boy, did they get out of jail, Laurie. When Townsville were 9 points up late in the third quarter, I thought they were going like winners. I thought they were home. But the fatigue factor, it kicked in. And look, I don't want to overlook Dandenong's quality, the fact that they were able to step up their defence in the last quarter. But gee, Townsville will be really upset with it, the way that finished, I think.
Well, I don't know, Darren, upset. I thought they were absolutely courageous in that game, and the way they went out. And there was a lot of momentum swings in that game. You know, originally they came out really strongly. Both teams were looking to run the floor, and I think that would have to be Dandenong's game plan. Run the floor. It may not pay off the first quarter, second quarter, but certainly by the fourth quarter, that would be the plan, and it certainly did pay off.
It did, 25-8 in that last quarter. Dandenong went from trailing by 6 at three-quarter time to obviously winning the game. They ended up winning the game by 11 with a couple of junk time baskets right at the very end. But what will Mark Wright take away from this game? We've just seen on the highlights some of the things that Townsville did really well. They got Dandenong in the air, jumping at shooters. Townsville's mid-range game was superb. I suppose that's one thing Dandenong will have to work on when they come up against Adelaide. But also, Krista Phillips, wasn't she superb?
Well, you know, Jen O'Hay top scored at 24 points, but I really thought Krista Phillips, especially in that fourth quarter, came to play, and she stayed on the court. She didn't get in foul trouble, and they focused inside to her in that fourth quarter, and that worked very well. And she finished, well, she didn't, I don't know that she missed in that fourth quarter, Darren.
Yeah, that's right. She ended up with 17 points, 11 rebounds, in fact 14 rebounds, I think, in the end, and also a handful of block shots. I've always been a fan of them using her in the offensive structure, and sometimes they don't do that, but it seemed like in this game when, as you said, in the fourth quarter when the game was on the line, they really went to it.
Well, I think I mentioned that at halftime of our call, that you asked me what I thought they should do, and Krista Phillips, to me, needed to be the focal point because they hadn't used her as well. And certainly they set up some offenses and executed it so that she got the ball in the right place at the right time. But a player I think we need to mention from Townsville is young Nadine Payne. What a fantastic finish to her season. And she contributed with 18 points, I think, in a tight game. Yeah,
she was wonderful. There's no doubt about that. And particularly after half-time as well, when Dowdell was quiet, basically the Dandenong defence got on top of her and she was able to come in. So many positives for Townsville season. As I said, I feel like that there's no doubt it was a bit of an opportunity miss, but I know that Chris Lucas's overwhelming emotion after the game was pride.
Oh, without doubt. And for them, they had 3 games in 7 days. You knew that fatigue was going to play a factor. It did, but very courageous.
All right, after the match, the game MVP was awarded, our ABC TV game MVP was awarded to Krista Phillips, and she spoke to ABC Grandstand's team.
Well, Krista, I'm glad I wore my hair since I have to have a chat to you, but the Rangers came up big. You came up huge.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, we knew we needed to play hard. They just, you know, it's been a long week for them, and we knew we had to capitalize. They ran a bit on us in the first half, which is what we didn't want, but I think we came back and did what we wanted to do in the fourth quarter. We were able to get on top.
It felt a little bit like you guys got a little nervous, though. Did it feel like that out on the floor?
I don't know if it was nerves. We just weren't playing the defense that we know we can play, and I think that was tough. It was holding us back in the first half, certainly, and a little bit in the third as well.
Well, we've all seen this match. Let's fast forward now. You've got Adelaide in Adelaide. You're coming off a great win over there in the last round of the season. That'll hold you in great stead.
Yeah, I mean, you play a team this many times, and you certainly know how to scout those players. So we're confident. You know, we know what we need to do. We need to play our game, and that's it. As long as we come to play, that we feel good about it.
Will it be a fairly light week on the track?
Yeah, you know, we're going to do our best, rest, recover, and get back at it because it's an important scout.
Great job.
Thank you.
Krista Phillips there with Narelle Fletcher. And I should also pass on my thanks to the Dandenong Basketball Association because they gave their game MVP award to Jenna O'Hay and actually gave her a bottle of red wine, Laurie, which apparently neither she nor her parents drink. And I happen to be standing next to her, so she just handed it across.
Oh, well then, we're a team, aren't you? I'm sure you'll share that bottle as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure Catherine Murphy will want to get her hands on it too. Catherine, over to you.
Thank you for that, Darren. I do like a glass of red. Perhaps Laurie and I should look after that bottle. But before we do that, time for an update on Sam Richards and her injury. Having missed out on Bulleen's win over Adelaide, the point guard looks set to return for the Boomers' 3rd home final in a row. She's scheduled to participate in full training this week, having missed 5 games since she tore her calf in round 16 against Townsville. Well, after their stunning win over Adelaide, the Bulleen Boomers are now outright favourites to win the tournament. And I'm telling you, a week is certainly a long time in sport because this time last week, they were paying $3.65. They are now down to $1.85. If you still think Adelaide are a firm chance, you can get them at $2.75 if you do fancy a flutter. Finally, Sarah Blickabs has been awarded the MVP of the tournament after Victoria clinched the Under-20 Nationals at the weekend. Congratulations to her. Lori, I really feel when a player wins an award like that, it's all down to the coach, really.
Well, I couldn't agree more with Catherine. It has to be about the coach, doesn't it, Darren?
Well, you've been telling me for about the last 6 years. So I had Carrie Graff next to me as well on Sunday, and Narelle Fletcher's even coaching. I think Rach is coaching too these days. So, you know, it must be. It's got to be all you.
Well, look, it was a great week for that championship and to win the gold medal against South Australia. And Sarah certainly did have a great tournament, and congratulations to her. Yeah, wonderful stuff for her. And let's hope that, well, I'm not sure where she's going to be next year, if she's back at the RAS or at another team of the competition, but who knows? Maybe some WNBL finals coming up for her in the future. We certainly hope that's the case. But we've got one more to deal with this week. Of course, it's the preliminary final, Adelaide against the Dandenong Rangers. Laurie, now the season series, we feel like it's a little bit misleading. Dandenong won the season series 2-1. The first game was a thriller. Adelaide won by 2 points. Jenna O'Hea had a shot to win it. It just missed. And then in the other two games, Dandenong won by 20 when Adelaide did not have Susie Batkovic, and by 31 when Adelaide took a nap in that round 18 game. And we almost took a nap covering it. So we're going to throw out those last two. Yes. Tell us about this match. Who's going to win? How's it going to be played? Well, I think, Darren, you're absolutely right when you've got to throw out them. It's playoffs now. It's an elimination final. It's to go to the grand final. Yep. So yes, take those equations out. Having said that, it's good for Dandenong to have won those games, because they're going to feel like they can match up with them. They're going to think that, you know, whatever Adelaide throw at us, we've beaten them twice, we can take it on board. Now, we mentioned a little bit earlier when we were talking about the Bulleen-Adelaide game, that Bulleen went with Rachel Jarry on Susie Batkovic, a smaller opponent. How do you think Dandenong are going to approach it? Krista Phillips in that earlier match, the one that was close, that was only a 2-point separation, Krista Phillips guarded Susie in that game and fouled out in 12 minutes. Well, I've been thinking a lot about that, and I really think Krista Phillips is the X factor in this game. Whether she defends Bishop or Batkovic, I still think she needs to stay on the court for Dandenong. We know what we're going to get out of Jen O'Hea. We know what we're going to get out of Kathleen McLeod. But if Krista Phillips is not on the court, who are they going to match up with against? I mean, when you have Luella Tomlinson, Alison Downey's going to have to take some big. So I think she needs to stay on the court. She's done a good job of that the last few games, and I think she's really finding her feet right now. The difference between these two teams and Bulleen, not that you'd know it necessarily from last weekend, is their experience. Adelaide is so experienced. When you think about Susie, Abby Bishop's played in 3 championships, Jo Hill's been around forever. Joey hasn't she? Jennifer Screen. Jenny Screen as well. And then on the other side of the equation, Jenna's played in a lot of big games. Sam Woosnam doesn't get a lot of court time, but she's captained a championship team before. In some ways, though, last week I felt like that experience might have almost counted against the teams, because they looked like they were so nervous. Maybe they knew how much they had to lose, whereas Townsville and Bulleen seemed to play with a bit of reckless abandon in many respects. Well, that's an interesting point. I mean, there's no question with Adelaide's experience, but I think in this game where it's all on the line, they could afford to lose last weekend's game and still, you know, play this weekend. And I think when it's all on the line, and plus Susie will have had that extra week of training, which I think will make a huge amount of difference. And they'll have looked at the tape, they'll have looked the way they played Dandenong, and as I say, discount that. And I think their experience will really show up in this coming weekend. Peter Buckle, Adelaide's coach, possible coach of the year against Mark Wright. Is there anything you can glean thinking about those coaches and that matchup that might have an impact on the game? Well, I was watching Mark Wright and Chris Lucas in their coaching, and I thought they did a great job of mixing things up. Yep. And I would assume, and I'm sure that these are two really experienced coaches, that they'll do the same thing. They'll have their zone as a backup. They'll look at their full court pressure. They'll switch up matchups. You know, so who knows? And if Susie gets, say, if Krista Phillips is guarding her, if she gets comfortable against her, then they'll switch and maybe put an Al Downey on her or whatever. The coaches will all have that in their minds. All right. Are you prepared to make a tip? Well, I'm very nervous asking this question. Well, as much as Dandenong are on a roll and they're feeling confident in that, I am still going to stick with the minor premiers and go for Adelaide. And I just think on their home court, with everything on the line, that they'll sneak over.
All right, well, it will be interesting. And then, of course, whoever wins advances to the grand final, which is coming up at the Cage in Melbourne on the 10th or the 11th, the Sunday, whatever the Sunday is. I've actually got a mental blank about the date. I think it's Sunday
It is the 11th.
Sunday the 11th at 3 o'clock. ABC TV will have all the coverage, as will WNBL Radio, of course. But it really is a remarkable performance by Bulleen. 4 grand finals in a row. Only the fifth team in WNBL history to do that, and they're only the 3rd team to host 3 in a row. I personally think it's just such a credit to Tom Maher, Gary Fox, Michelle Timms, Matt Papps, the entire coaching team, that with the players that they lost, that we're so busy talking about Adelaide and Townsville and the roster overhauls that they've had, and they've been great, but we sometimes forget about Bulleen and how they lost, 6 or 7 championship players from last season, and they're still up there.
Well, and besides Sammy Richards as an experienced player coming into the new roster, the rest of them are pretty young.
That's right.
And so you have to give full credit to Tom for developing these young kids into a unit and getting into their 4th grand final.
Yeah, and now maybe, I think they're now the grand final favourites after that performance.
Well, you would have to think that at the Cage in front of their crowd, they're used to it. They've got this extra week off, so and certainly we'll be hoping that Sammy Richards returns. Yeah,
that'll be a big factor for them without a shadow of a doubt. So make sure you get to these games. If you're in Melbourne, buy your tickets from the grand final. Check it out the WNBL website and also through the Bulleen Boomers. I'm sure you can get all the details there. And also, if you're in Adelaide, we want a big crowd. We need the Adelaide folk to come out, Laurie.
Well, like Townsville and Dandenong,
like
fantastic crowds, and so it'd be great to see a packed stadium in Adelaide.
It would be fantastic. Now, of course, that's the WNBL action coming up, but also coming up on the 26th of March is Basketball Australia's gala evening. It's the NBL and WNBL MVP night. All of the awards are going to be announced on that night for both of the competitions. The most valuable players for both competitions, the All-Star Fives, Defensive Players of the Year, etc., etc. Tickets are available through the Basketball Australia website. Laurie, I'm sure you'll be there.
Well, I hope so. It is a great night. I remember the Hall of Fame a couple of years ago, and the awards was a fantastic evening. All
right, fantastic. Well, that's all we've got time for on WNBL iTV. We hope that you'll enjoy your WNBL finals action this weekend, and we're looking forward to another cracking game. Should be great. We'll see you next week.